What if the most gripping love story is about a man who refuses to act?
Sounds difficult, right? Can a story like that even work? You know, we usually expect our best stories to have like literal fireworks.
Exploding cars, loud arguments in the rain, big dramatic declarations. But sometimes the most spellbinding narrative tension happens entirely in the quiet reflections of an office glass wall.
You mean that subtle stuff?
Exactly.
Today we're doing a deep dive into a stack of sources for a newly released multimedia project called Him for Her. And it completely shatters that conventional loud expectation.
It really does. It's fascinating. It comes from what a character absolutely refuses to do. Our mission today is to figure out why this is so compelling.
We've got multiple layers here: the story draft, the audio narrative, the lyrics, and the video itself.
And it quickly becomes a masterclass in visual and psychological storytelling. You know, it takes place in a bustling multinational office.
Yeah, super corporate.
Where, as the text notes, days move fast and people speak louder than they listen.
Right.
It's an environment defined by noise and chaos. But the creators use that chaotic baseline to frame an incredibly slow burn story, one built entirely on restraint, reflections, and the immense power of what just isn't said.
Think about your own office right now. Or, any modern corporate building you've been in recently.
All the glass.
Exactly. The glass conference rooms, the transparent partitions, the dark computer monitors. You might feel like you're isolated in your little cubicle, but you are constantly visible.
Constantly.
The creators of this video totally weaponize that exact corporate architecture to build tension right out of the gate.
They absolutely do, and it starts with how they introduce the two central figures. First, we have Daisy.
Right, Daisy.
The narrative paints her as someone who claims the day every morning. She has this gentle, grounding presence. She walks through this hectic workspace not trying to stand out, but the kinetic energy of the office just naturally settles around her.
And then there is Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
The prose tells us that Brian noticed Daisy the way one notices calm amid noise. But if you are the director of this project, how do you show that on screen without making him look like a total creep?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. They solve this by having Brian use those reflective surfaces we just talked about. He waits for her every single day just to be around when she walks by, but he never actually turns his body towards her.
His eyes lift just enough to register her presence in the reflection, and then you see his expression soften. It is a completely private, unguarded moment.
Yeah.
By showing us his eyes lifting and then immediately returning to his work, the video establishes his character entirely through unspoken body language.
We immediately understand that this is a person who deeply respects boundaries.
Right. His kindness, as the story draft puts it, never asks for permission to exist.
Let's actually bring in a piece of the narrative audio track here to give you a sense of how the creators explicitly define his mindset.
Oh, good idea.
The audio says,
"But unknown to them, Brian has rules. Unless fate creates a moment, he won't step into her space. A quiet kind of chivalry."
A quiet kind of chivalry. That phrase is the psychological anchor of the entire project. He is actively choosing not to intrude on her reality.
Okay, let's unpack this, because his restraint is basically like a human do not disturb sign.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And here's the brilliant part. That refusal to act is exactly what makes this such highly addictive entertainment.
It really is. But a story can't sustain itself forever on just two people silently existing in parallel.
No, nothing would happen.
Right. So to move the narrative forward without breaking Brian's character, the creators introduce a catalyst, a third character who entirely shifts the spatial dynamics of the video.
Anna.
Yes, the observant coworker.
She's walking past Brian's desk one afternoon, and she sees the way his eyes track Daisy in the reflection.
And the crucial detail is that Brian has no idea he's been seen.
None at all.
This is where the tension begins to really compound. Anna doesn't confront him. Instead, later on, she's standing with Daisy near the elevator mirrors.
Oh, I love this scene.
It's so well done. The video shows them standing at an angle, just enough to create a visual window in the reflection.
They see Brian.
Brian watching quietly from his desk, completely unaware that he's being observed.
And Daisy decides to test this newfound knowledge. The next time she passes his desk, she deliberately slows her pace. She tilts her head just slightly to feel his reaction.
And he's looking. Every single time.
We have the transcript of the dialogue that happens right after this between Anna and Daisy. Anna says,
"Hi, Daisy. That smile. Someone's on your mind."
And Daisy replies,
"Oh, you caught me."
He thinks I don't notice, but I do. And I like it.
Now I have to stop here and challenge the setup.
okay,
You call Anna an observant catalyst, but isn't she just like enabling his total lack of action?
what do you mean?
Well, in the real world, wouldn't a good friend just tell Brian to step up? Or grab Daisy and march her over to his desk?
Sure, normally.
That is standard operating procedure for the best friend character in literally every romantic comedy ever made. Why doesn't she just force the issue?
Because forcing the issue would trigger something devastating for Brian.
Devastating?
Yes. This is where the project elevates itself from a simple aesthetic music video to a really profound psychological study. There is a concept detailed heavily in the source text called silent shame.
Right, I saw that.
The story script says that Brian won't initiate.
But why? Is he just too shy?
It's not about shyness at all. It's about self-preservation and a very specific kind of honor.
Okay.
If Brian were to ask Daisy out and she didn't feel the same way, Brian wouldn't get angry. He wouldn't blame her. He would accept it quietly, walk away, and carry the rejection entirely alone.
Wow.
He would spend the rest of his life wondering in silence if he'd simply never been enough.
Think about how countercultural that is. We live in a society obsessed with ego,
Oh, completely.
with shooting your shot and with forcing the universe to give you what you want. Brian's mindset is the ultimate anti-ego move.
Yes,
It's not that he lacks confidence, you know? It's that he values her peace over his own desires.
exactly. The text explicitly states that was what silent shame meant. It wasn't embarrassment, it was self-erasure.
It's a profound vulnerability.
He is terrified of intruding on her life and becoming a burden.
Yeah, so now the secret is out. Daisy knows he's watching and she likes it. As a viewer, you're sitting on the edge of your seat, so it's time for the big payoff, right?
You'd think so.
That they're going to meet at the water cooler and the music will swell. But the video brilliantly subverts this expectation. Just as Daisy becomes aware and starts giving him these subtle green lights,
Brian completely pulls away.
wait, hold on. She just gave him the opening. She is deliberately slowing down for him. Any character in any movie would take that cue.
Right, but
I just don't get why on earth is he retreating when he is finally getting what he wants.
because his primary fear is making her uncomfortable. He notices her slowing down and his immediate thought isn't, oh, she likes me.
What is it then?
His immediate thought is, oh no, she caught me looking. She feels awkward, and now she is altering her routine because of me.
Oh, wow. He misinterprets it entirely.
Completely. He fears he imagined the whole connection. He thinks maybe she's just being overly kind, and he refuses to risk putting her in a situation she didn't ask for.
So he aggressively pulls back.
Yeah. He shuts down the one thing he allowed himself to have.
That's beautifully shown in the video. It's evening, the office is emptying out, the fluorescent lights are dimming, leaving just the glow of the city outside hitting the glass walls.
The visual atmosphere is so moody here,
Brian is packing up his bag.
and there is no anger in him. There are no tears. It is just a quiet, crushing acceptance of a loss he never even voiced.
Yeah,
He thinks to himself that maybe love was just something he was meant to feel but not keep. He has entirely accepted his self-erasure.
yes. But what about Daisy now?
She senses the shift in his behavior. One afternoon, Daisy passes by. She's clearly visible in the reflection, and his eyes begin to lift out of habit. But then he actively stops himself.
He forces his eyes down.
Exactly.
And Daisy, who has just learned to rely on his gentle observing presence, feels the vacuum of it. And this is where the multimedia brilliance of the project truly shines, because visually, Brian is giving us nothing. He is stone-faced, staring at his spreadsheet.
Right, completely blank.
But orally, the song's lyrics kick in to underscore the massive emotional tragedy of the moment. Let's look at the lyrics for the track that portrays this concept.
Please do.
The lyrics go,
He'd speak no word, make no plea. If you say that he can't be, he'd rather lose than make you stay. See you smile and
That juxtaposition is stunning.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah,
This is how you manipulate a viewer's dopamine loop. Usually, a music video uses the track to reinforce the action. You see people dancing. The music is upbeat. You see a character crying. The music is melancholic.
right. They match.
But Him for Her uses the track as a contrasting emotional channel. The lyrics aren't just background ambiance.
No, they're acting as Brian's internal monologue.
Exactly. The song itself is literally pleading with Daisy on his behalf. The chorus begs,
Baby, it's time you know it's true. You're the one and he breathes for you. If your heart can feel the same, don't let him fade in silent shame.
So good.
the soundtrack is screaming all the things his own chivalry prevents him from saying out loud. It's so effective.
As a viewer, you are caught right in the middle of that dramatic irony. You know exactly what is happening inside his head, while Daisy is left wondering why he went cold.
You're practically shouting at the screen. But, how does a creator visually resolve a conflict where the main character's primary defining trait is his absolute refusal to initiate anything?
That's the challenge.
Like, if Brian suddenly decides to grab a microphone and declare his love to the whole office, the entire premise falls apart.
Oh, completely. It would betray the psychological groundwork they just spent the whole video building.
So, what do?
Brian cannot be the one to break the silence, so Daisy has to take control.
Right.
She realizes that if she leaves it up to him, he will happily fade into the background just to ensure her comfort. She has to, as the narrative beautifully phrases it, become the fate that Brian has been waiting for.
She approaches his desk, but she is smart about it. She does it under the guise of official office work.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. What does Brian do? He smiles, polite and professional, restrains himself entirely, and focuses right back on his monitor.
It's heartbreaking but consistent.
The message he is sending is crystal clear. He's saying, I am not going to complicate your life at work. I will not compromise your smile.
He is sticking to his code right to the bitter end.
But while he is convinced that his silence has already sealed his fate, Daisy has had a moment of profound clarity.
She has.
As he walks towards the door, she steps beside him. She doesn't rush up to him. She simply occupies the space next to him.
And they walk out of the office together.
And the cinematography here is just brilliant. For the very first time in the entire story, the camera angle shifts so that their reflections are finally sharing the same piece of glass.
It's a huge payoff.
He turns toward her, and for the first time, instead of watching her reflection, he holds her actual gaze.
No hurrying, no looking away.
Just pure, unshielded certainty.
And right over this moment of unbroken eye contact, the final lyrical hook of the song drops in. The line goes,
Don't let him fade in silent
For you sitting there and watching this project, it is incredibly satisfying, specifically because it skips all those cliché rom-com tropes. The payoff isn't a massive confession. It's just her physical presence,
a subtle nudge.
a shared smile.
The reason Daisy chooses him and the reason this ending resonates so deeply with the audience is deeply rooted in everything we just analyzed.
Yeah,
She chose him because he loved her without ever trying to own her. His restraint wasn't weakness or apathy. It was the ultimate, most demanding form of respect.
and that's beautifully said.
The project is a gorgeously simple, unafraid story that trusts the viewer's intelligence. So what does this all mean? The takeaway for anyone connected with the story is that sheer presence, carefully contained, can be louder than any dialogue.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a must-watch for that. Do watch it to experience the full story.
Right, and that's all for today. We'll see you soon with another deep dive, another project. Till then, stay blessed and be creative.